So I know we're all tired, so I'll try to be as engaging as possible. My name is Kuntur Kula, and I'm an art history minor as well as an econ major, and I have been interested in the contemporary art market for a couple of years now. And I try to model the market through using the hedonic price methods. And the contemporary market is an interesting place because a lot is happening right now. It's a very responsive market to other certain market changes, and as well as the contemporary collectors are not only buying art just because just to hang it on their bedroom walls, but they also buy it as an investment. So I had probably two objectives throughout the course of the study, and first one was probably trying to find the returns to characteristics of the artworks, and the second one was examining art as an investment. And I'll talk more about those as I move on. But first I'd like to talk to you about the difficulty of modeling the artwork, because especially the contemporary art market, it's a very unique market. Every artwork is basically a product on its own. Unlike like cars or cell phones, it's kind of difficult to come up with something general to include everything in a model. Also, there's a lot of heterogeneity in the markets. One of the things, for instance, is that what cultures consider art, or how art movements change over a period of time, especially in the contemporary art market, affects the type of the market behavior in the market. Most of the sales in the art market actually are also private deals, so we don't necessarily have information regarding these private deals. In fact, all of the studies that I've looked at use auction results as part of their studies, and because that's the only publicly available information to us. And also, there's another aspect of the art market, which is the aesthetic beauty, the art historical context, the branding of the pieces, which are not necessarily quantifiable very easily. So it's not easily, you can't easily include these in the model modeling the contemporary art market. So there are two different methods that are basically used in order to understand the art market. And the first method I'm going to talk about, which I haven't used, is the repeat sales method. And in the repeat sales methods, for instance, this is the Jean-Michel Basquiat warrior piece. In 1982, he was born in 1916 in New York City, left home at the age of 15, was quickly discovered by the New York art scene, and died of a heroin overdose in 1988. But in 1982, he sold for about $1.8 million. And in 2007, he sold about $4.9 million. And if you look at the change, it's about 85.5%. And in that sense, it's actually comparable to the stock market change over that period of time. So art is actually an investment. And when you're using a repeat sales method, you basically take repeat sales of a certain group of paintings and compare the gross investment returns of those pieces. And it's a great method to, if you're planning to infer things about the market change overall. Unfortunately, it doesn't capture certain characteristics of the art piece, such as the size, artist. In this case, for instance, the artist actually died in between these years, so you can't necessarily capture those effects, and you can't necessarily say anything about those effects. So I use the hedonic price method, and in the hedonic price method, one of the best things about the hedonic price method is that you can actually account for certain characteristics, such as the size, the medium, the artist, the year and the work year, the year it was executed and everything. And also, it's a great model because especially for contemporary art, because you don't have to eliminate data, because in the repeat sales method, you have to have at least 2 points for every painting that has come to the market, so you can actually include those and look at the gross investment returns. With hedonic price index, however, you don't have to do that. And the downside to the whole thing is that you can't necessarily include every characteristics, such as the uniqueness of the artwork or the branding of the artist. There are certain aspects that are not quantifiable, and you can't necessarily include those in the hedonic price method. And just like the repeat sales method, you can't necessarily include the unsold objects in the market because they don't have a price tag on them, so you don't necessarily know where they stand in the market. And that could potentially cause a bias. And I will talk more about that later on. My data comes from ArtNet's database, online database. It ranges from 2005 to 2010, and I have 951 observations, and I only have 832 price observations, which goes to say that about 10% of the artworks in my sample did not sell. So, will this cause a problem? Probably in my sample. And if you look at the mins and max, actually there's a huge variation in the prices, about 100,000 to $86 million. So there's a lot of variation in the artworks as well. And if you're just wondering about why these numbers are low, there was a technical difficulty, as they said, from ArtNet, that they couldn't provide me the provenance number, the exhibition history information, and the literature information for the pieces that came to auction before 2008. So I've done a bunch of models, but I just want to talk to you about one specific model. In this case, it's model 1.2 over here. It may be a little small, but this is a fixed effects model. This is an artist fixed effects, and it takes into account all the artworks sold between 2008 and 2010. And the base case here is Christie's New York sales, as opposed to Sotheby's, works on paper, and May 2008. And if you look at it, the first thing you will see over here, number one, is the dimension. And I've actually used two variables, dimension and dimension squared, a functional form of dimension, to account for how the dimension affects the price. And as expected, it's a significant effect. As the sizes of the pieces get larger, the prices tend to go up. But it turns out that 182 square feet is the largest that the bidders are willing to increase the price on a certain piece of artwork, possibly because after that it gets too large, and there are some issues about storing it and handling it and all that sorts of stuff. When we look at lot number is the order. It comes to the auctions, the artwork, the order the artwork comes at an auction. And it's a statistically significant number. It's a negative number. So there are perhaps two explanations to this. Ashenfelter actually says that this could be possibly due to the collector's behavior of being more aggressive at the early periods of the auction and less aggressive at the later periods. Or this could also be explained by the business practices of Sotheby's and Christie's in this case, as to if they are putting higher selling artworks at the previous part of the auction, this might cause a negative number in the lot variable over there. Sotheby's New York, as opposed to Christie's, is not statistically significant, and one would expect it to be so because it's a competitive market and there should not be a significant change in that case. And if you look at paintings as opposed to works on paper, there's about a 55% increase actually for the artworks that are in the medium of a painting. And if you look at exhibition and literature number, they are all statistically significant and they tend to be positive, perhaps suggesting that more famous artworks, the artworks which were exhibited more, which were cited more in a literary sense, are more famous, and that's why they fetch higher prices. Number 6 in this case is referring to all the time dummies that I have over there, and I kind of use that. I just want to point out that they're all statistically significant. I use that actually to create an art price index. And in this case, I start with May 2008, and you can see this is what the art market looks like over that period. I forgot to tell you this, but there are two main sale seasons, one in May and one in November in New York. And right after the May sales, there was the collapse of Lehman Brothers, and you can actually see a huge drop in the market, and a gradual get back to it. And in fact, in the last two sales, there seems to be a slowdown or perhaps a flattening in the market. And I compare this to, I also do the same regression for a subset of paintings only, as I take out the works on paper, and there seems to be a lag in the painting markets, and perhaps this could be suggested by this could suggest some sort of a higher volatility for works on paper, or it could perhaps suggest a lower elasticity of demand for the paintings market as compared to the market in general. However, there's a problem with the market because all of these results actually include works that have sold in the market. But that's a problem because in May 2008, for instance, about 22% of the pieces did not sell. However, after the collapse of Lehman Brothers, about 44% of the works did not sell. So if one does not include this portion of the study, this portion of the market, can you really claim that you are capturing the market effects? And that's why I wanted to address this, looking at some past works on this, and that I've used a two-stage Heckman procedure to correct for this. And I'm not going to discuss them due to the lack of time, but I can assure you that there was a selection bias actually, and my inverse Mills ratio pointed out that there was that one could actually correct this problem using a two-stage Heckman procedure. So overall, I mean, the limitations of my model are, come from the limitations of the art market in general. It's small size. There's limited amount of information. It's a very secretive market. And also, there's a problem with the market participation. Because it's such a small market, people tend to have a lot of influence over the market. For instance, this man, Larry Gagosian, not to point him out specifically, owns an empire of 11 galleries in 8 countries of the 77 top-selling artists, and sells about $1 billion a year privately. So if he holds a huge inventory of, let's say, Richard Prince, and he wants to protect his artists, he might actually bid I don't know, $10 million higher at an auction just to protect the name and the price level of the artist at an auction. So these are not necessarily captured by my model, and that's a problem. So what will happen next week? Does anyone know? Next week is the sale week of New York, in New York, so all the billionaires will be coming to New York to buy millions of dollars of art. 2 of those actually are my bosses from Christie's, so they will be buying a lot of things. And this is a Mark Rothko painting that is offered next week at Christie's. And I kind of use my model to predict, what this is going to fetch. If I assume that there's a flattening in the market, if I assume that the November prices will be pretty much the same here in the May sales, this piece should fetch about $21 million. And as suggested by Gertzman, who did a study on the market and its correlation with the stock exchange, if there is a high correlation with the stock exchange, actually this piece should fetch about $23 million. And what does Christie's says? They say $18 to $22 million. So I think for the bulk part, the model is pretty good at predicting what's going to happen. Christie's, one should note also that Christie's spends about hours and hours sitting across the table, pulling out comps, doing research, trying to define what the price is going to be. And it took me about 12 seconds to find these numbers. So perhaps one could use a model like this to predict the markets. And I'm going to end I have some other estimates, but I'm going to end my presentation over here, and I'll answer questions if you have any. And I just have more estimates. I'll just run them through as you ask your questions.